Hey everybody! Today I'm going to show you a really cool way to make some super easy, fast, and quick, plus stunning table toppers, hexagon ones from a border stripe fabric. Yes, this started out as a striped fabric like this. It really did. All right, let me show you how easy this is. I already have a couple of Christmas ones, so you can see that every time you make them, they look a little different, but also really, really cool. I mean, look at that. How cute is that? These ones are Christmas. This one was Halloween. Get yourself a big old border stripe because you think to yourself, what am I going to use this border stripe fabric for except for like borders because it's called a border stripe, right? Wrong. We're going to make some toppers. So get yourself some nice border print fabric. This is the kind of thing you find on sale frequently at quilt shops. It's one of the hardest things to sell because people don't know how to use it. That's why I'm showing you how to use it. I've cut myself off a whole meter, yard, doesn't matter. If you've only got 3/4, work with that. Once you've done this a few times, and depending on the width of your border print, you might find you'll need as little as a 1/2 meter. Now, when I did this Halloween one, I only cut myself a 1/2 meter, so like 20 inches. Could you get it out of a fat quarter? Maybe if you weren't picky about like where some of the elements landed. Like if this was more of a floral and the design flowed a little better and didn't have, you know, these cute little guys that I didn't want to cut down the middle, you could probably get away with less. And of course, if you use smaller triangles, you could also get away with less fabric. So get yourself a meter or a yard to play with. And like I said, it's almost always on sale somewhere. So you can tell yourself, you know, low investment here, but you know what? I'm betting you probably have a stripe in your stash. Okay, so let's get these out of the way. Just throw them on the floor. Pretend I'm Eleanor Burns again. There we go. So what I want you to do, we're not gonna cut this fabric our usual way. We're gonna lay it out. Woo! Lay it out in a single layers. We don't want to cut this on the fold or anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at our print. It would make more sense if it was right side up. We're going to look at our print and we're going to decide where on this print we're going to cut this way, horizontally. I just usually pick a line that's in the stripe and I cut alongside that line. Sometimes I line it up with, you know, the selvage usually helps. I know I'm going to cut off the selvage, so that usually helps me figure out which portions of the design that I want to repeat. So I think, looking at this, I want to do some similar things like I did with some of the previous ones. And sometimes if you have a stripe, a little stripe at the top, then you'll get a little center design. But I think on this one, I want a nice clean center. So I'm going to cut my stripes following this top one here so that it's just black at the top. So when I'm done my table runner, it will have, or table topper, it'll have this nice big element here, and then these skinnier stripes will be all around the outside. So let's cut these strips. I'll show you how to cut this strip and see how far we get. Okay, so here we are at our cutting table, and way up top here, this is my selvage edge. I'll cut that off in a second. But what I really want to do is the next one down, I got to go look at my design from the top here. Where's the next spot where I see this big black stripe? It's right here. So I'm going to cut right along this line right here between this black and this blue stripe, right along the whole way. Now, I might not need to cut all the stripes apart. It depends on your design element. And maybe if you are doing this for the first time and you're not sure, you can cut yourself a little extra. It's all right. I mean, I can show you what to do with those pieces after. There's always lots you can do. Make sure you have enough cutting mat underneath. Oops. Somebody told me it's good when I show my mistakes and I don't edit them out because then they feel like it's a little more doable. So there. So we've got one of our stripes here, and we're just going to cut a second one. Dun, dun, dun. Don't worry too much about messing it up. I think in this design, I probably only need 2 lengths of the stripe. It's because of the way the stripe goes on the fabric, that's why you need more yardage. If it went the other way, it might be a little different, but here we are. Alrighty. Just cut this second one here. This would be a little better on my other cutting table, but I wanted to sort of not move around so much for this video. So you got what you got. At least maybe you'll get a video that's done. Ha. Okay, so I have 2 big stripes. I'm just gonna set this aside for now. So the other thing you wanna get is a 60-degree ruler. This is the hexagon ruler. You don't have to get this ruler. You don't have to buy this ruler. You just have to go look in your stash and say to yourself, what ruler do I already have that has a 60-degree on it? It could be the Eleanor Burns quilt as you quilt in a day. Quilt as you go, quilt in a day. Can't say 2 words at once. It could be the Eleanor Burns equilateral triangle. It could be a Bonnie Hunter one. It could be a Creative Grids. I don't care. I don't care what it says on the label as long as it says 60 degrees. That's all you got to worry about, 60 degrees. You have one in your stash. I know you do. If you're just trying this, borrow it from a friend. So now we can get rid of our long ruler. And we can get rid of our big ruler. Okay, so I'm going to lay my stripe out. So this time I can actually stack my fabric. And if you want to get picky, if you have some big fun elements here, we can sort of see where Santa is in this case and center him if we want. Oh, that actually works out pretty good. So just worry about the top pointy edge. This top pointy edge is at the top, so you can keep most of what you want to keep. Because if the border is bigger than where the base of your ruler is, you can always extend those lines down. I did that on the pink and blue Christmas one. Like I just had to move it over and just grab another ruler and make sure it went down. But usually you can just go like this. Make sure that top's up there. And just keep cutting. Wow, I might only need 1 stripe. So because this is a hexagon and hex means 6, we're gonna need 6 triangles. He lined up really, really good there. You are gonna have a lot of waste, but like I said, sometimes you can find other project to do. Maybe it'll be a table topper that just has the design going an opposite way. So you could probably get 2. Oh yeah, we're gonna get 2. You know what? I am gonna get fussy. I lined it up where I cut before, but this design right here, this cute little reindeer, he's not inside my triangle, so I am gonna fussy cut him. A fussy cut just means I'm gonna be picky about where things lined up. And he's right smack in the middle there. So it does use a little extra fabric, but it's often quite worth it. I normally try not to cut towards me. Okay, I'm gonna set some of these aside. So I've got 2 triangles. I know. Look at that, I got 2 already. So yeah, this is Extreme Santa from Northcott. You don't have to be hilarious like me, but it sure does help. So sometimes you see, I want to center this guy, but my ruler's off over here, so I don't have enough fabric. So I do have to skip over to the next dude, but it's okay because we still have another stripe to go. So if you aren't picky, you can probably get most of what you need out of 1 long stripe, but like I said, we're going to be a little bit picky here. Just because we can. And hey, you got the fabric on sale, so have at it. So this one, I don't think, no, that's not going to fit. There's not enough left on this stripe to cut a full triangle. So we'll set that one aside and we'll work on our next strip. And I did not cut my selvage off like I said I would. That is bad. I'm just gonna be real quick here and also fold it. Sorry the top of my head's cut off. I wanted you to see what I was cutting more than, you know, my pretty face. There we go. Just zip that off. And of course, if you decided on your fabric that you wanted to have a little bitty stripe up there, you'll have a little center design when you're done, and it can be quite pretty. And it doesn't matter what side you start. You can start over here, you can start over there. I'm left-handed, so I tend to do things a little backwards. But I'm also gonna go to this end here because I definitely want this dude. At this end of the stripe, it's a reindeer, and I've already got that reindeer. You don't have to be that picky. The another one that I did, I just wanted to make sure that I got one of every element that was on the stripe because they were really pretty, and I did have to repeat one, but that's okay. So I've got 4. We're getting there, we're getting there. Oh, Santa's doing a sweet jump on his snowboard here. I gotta get that one in. If you have somebody who's really into winter sports, I think this would be freaking hilarious. It just makes me giggle. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. We're setting those aside. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I just need one more because we need 6. Do we have? Oh, I've got 2 sweet ski jumps. Santa going down in skis. I am gonna fussy cut this dude. You could decide to like fussy cut your border even if you wanted. But I just wanted to make sure we got at least one of everything. There's only one Rudolph in here, but we'll live. We shall live. There we go. Okay. So now we've got our 6 triangles. Woohoo! Look at that. So I'm just gonna very quickly lay them out here. What you're gonna do too is just, you're gonna take them and sew them on the nice triangle side. But you're not going to do all of them in pairs because you have to do them in 3s. And I will show you why. Oh, I should have done 2 reindeers. So you're gonna sew 3 of them like this, and the other 3 you will sew like this. And then you will put the 2 halves together. Like, there we go. Isn't that cute? So these are just the pieces laid out. So now you can see how it's coming together. So before I go to sew this and press this, I'm going to show you the pieces that we cut off, like the waste pieces, how you can get another little sweet table topper out of this, out of what we had left over. So this is how this is gonna look, and it's gonna have this nice blue stripe on the outside and Santa's in the inside. So because we cut our things opposite, we're gonna set that aside just for now. I'm gonna throw that over at our machine. There we go. We're gonna grab our waste pieces. And we're gonna do the same thing, except in this time, Santa and Rudolph here are gonna be opposite. Now you can decide for yourself if you wanted to still be picky and preserve some of the elements. Sometimes you can just stack them and see what happens. Because in this case, we've got a lot more room for what's going on. Oh yeah, so I can probably cut 2 at a time here, or more, because we still need 6, and we should be able to get 6 out of this. There we go. See, now they're gonna go this way. These ones are gonna go the opposite way, but it will still work out. It will still work out. You still have to cut them cleanly, but it does help you use up the fabric. You wind up with two runners in one, 2 toppers in one. There we go. So that can go in the garbage. I mean, I save a lot of tiny scraps, but I'm not saving that. This one, we've got that. So we've got 4. That's another waste piece right there. So we've got 4. I can't get another one out of that. Nope, can't do that. I'm gonna cross our fingers. We might have to, sometimes you can get almost, so if you're really skimping on fabric, you could stop. And I gotta stop for a second. Magic. We are back. Just had a little interruption there. And through the magic of the internet, here I am. I've got, with the leftovers from cutting out the first one, I only had enough opposite triangles for 5. So I did have to go cut another stripe off of my fabric. This is why you get extra. It's okay. I've got more plans for everything else. And you have to remember to cut another triangle going in the same direction. Sometimes I'll just lay one on top and be like, yeah, okay, that's what I was doing. All right, great job. Great job, Andrea. Past you. You really nailed it there. Because, you know, it's okay to give yourself a little bit of encouragement. Got myself a chair. You can see my face and see me cutting. It's less than ideal, but okay, yeah, don't cut like that. That's not safe. Okay, another little triangle. Woo! Okay, so now we have our 5 triangles going the other direction. And I keep skipping threads because I keep getting the middle of the mat here. My blade's fine, I swear to God. So now you have your opposite triangles and we'll lay them out. Look at how cute. How cute is that? Like seriously, this fabric is nuts. You will get a little bit of faces cut off, but that's okay. Maybe he's just hiding. And again, see, we've got 3 on one side for 1/2. And then we're gonna sew the other 3 on the other side for the other half. Oh, this is just, yeah, okay. So it looks a little wonky now in the middle, but when we sew this together, this is going to work out a lot better. But you can see how this one already looks different than the previous one. So my suggestion when you do sew these, that you pick one of these stripes. You pick one of the stripe that's nice and prominent, and when you do your seams, you make sure that they're lined up on the stripes, and then you pin those. You don't need too many. If you do one, one or 2, you're probably good. And just make sure those are lined up when you sew them. Just pin those. I'm gonna line up like this one, this stripe right here, and this stripe right here, and then sew your seam. Because we can trim off stuff at the ends, make it look good. People won't know that we had to trim things. It's totally fine. But I'm gonna pin a couple spots where I definitely want them to match up, and then I will sew some seams, and I will meet you back here, okay? You go do that, I'll go do that. We'll meet back here and see how we make out, all right? Okay, go. Okay, so remember, you've got 6 pieces here. That means 3 pairs, but you're not gonna sew all the pairs together. You're just gonna sew 4 pieces together. So 2 pairs and leave 2 free because we've gotta do thirds. And I'm gonna actually chain piece both runners here. So let's go. Dun, dun, dun. The other thing to remember when you're sewing these is these are cut on an angle, so they're a biased, stretchy edges. Try not to pull too much, and you should be all right. Okay. I'm just letting the machine feed through. Okay, so I have my 2 extra for that one. I'm gonna leave them over there for later. I'm gonna move on to my secondary triangle runner, triangle topper. I keep messing that up. And yeah, I'm not pinning this. I can line them up. If you need to pin them, go right ahead. No shame in that. Oops, I can feel that's off, but I'll line that up. See, I should have pinned. That'll learn me. So again, I'm only sewing 2 sets. I don't want to sew the 3rd set. I want to leave the 3rd pair. I want to leave that. And it's hard to mix them up because they are almost 2 different sizes. So if you didn't want to make table toppers with the extra pieces. The other thing that you can do that I have done, this is what I did with the Halloween one. See how they're like this? You could just make bunting. Like, wouldn't that be adorable bunting? You could just make bunting. I love bunting. So these are sewn together. Before I do, well, you could fully press these, but I'm just gonna just give a light finger press. Where am I? Don't know where I am. I'll go back to the first set. I'm just gonna give myself a little light finger press. Don't scrape it with your fingernail too much. Just where it meets in the middle. A little light finger press. If you have one of those seam rollers, this would also be a good time for your seam roller. Just give them a light press to get that seam out of the way. Line up that middle, line up a stripe. It doesn't matter which direction you sew this in. You can go from the middle out, from the edge in. Doesn't matter, really doesn't. Just as long as that doesn't bunch. Just, yeah, don't bunch it and don't pull that seam too hard. You should be good. There, so that's that pair and that one. I like to batch my jobs like this so I'm not constantly getting up and down. Well, I still need to get up and down because I don't want my hips to lock up. I mean, if you're getting old, you know what I'm saying, right? Here we go. Okay, so that's those two halves on the large topper, and I have a thread cutter on this, but I don't use it unless I really have to, mostly because I'm not in the habit. I still like to snip things carefully. This thread cutter is really good though, usually. And look, if we, as you're pressing that open, you can see those lines are lining up real nice. If they're a little bit off, don't worry about it. It's a table topper. By the time you finish quilting it and you run it through the wash a couple times, it's going to be so crinkly, nobody's going to notice that, you know, you missed it by a 1/16 of an inch, please. If somebody's eating at your table and they're like, wow, that didn't line up, tell them to get a life. Just shove more stuffing in their face. Would you like more dessert, mother-in-law? Yeah, it's pretty good. Okay. A lot of this you can hide with your quilting anyway. So little light finger press there. No scraping. Just lining up again. So we've got my two halves. So after we've got two halves for each one, we're going to take it over to the ironing board and give this a press. After I fix my thread break. I'll see you there. Okay, so here we are at our ironing station, but we're gonna press. You know what, I should have turned this maybe. We're gonna press, and I'm gonna show you the difference between pressing and ironing. But first, another important thing we're gonna talk about is starch. So whenever I do something that has a lot of angles like this, I have a handy bottle of starch on hand. This is a little lighter version. Sometimes I take my starch and mix it with a little bit of water, so it's like half and half, just for a little lighter starch. It depends. Depends on if I have like just a little bit left in the bottle too, and I'm trying to, you know, squeeze it out a little more. So that's that one. I gotta group these by design too, because I'm gonna get them mixed up. I know I am. That one and this one. Okay, there we go. So, dun, dun, dun. What I like to do, this is just a preference, it's not like a rule, it's not on the instructions. I like to spray my starch or whatever on one side first and let it sit in, let it soak in a little. And then when I go to press it, I'm gonna flip it over and press the other side. So that occurred to me one day when I sprayed off like I usually did. And then I put my iron on, and of course you all hear that sizzle, and I just realized, wow, I starched my iron really, really good this time. I don't want to starch my iron, I want to starch my fabric, okay? So this gives it a chance to soak in. And when we go to the other side, I mean, sure, we might be starching our mat in this case, but we've got more in our fabric. So here's how you press. I got my nice Aliso Tula Pink, matches the aesthetic. I like to press my seam before I open it. This will help set the stitches and sink them into those nice layers. That just means you press. We're not ironing here. You iron your sheets, you press your quilting. We're gonna press that seam as well. As far as to one side or the other, or if you wanna press your seams open, that's entirely up to you. For a project like this, it doesn't matter too much where they all meet in the middle. It's manageable. I just try to press them all off in the same direction. Sometimes if it gets a little too bulky, I might just press open the center seam that we're gonna do. And I did wiggle a little here, but I'm trying to like press down. And if I do move, I'm actually pulling up a little bit. It's just not very perceptible. Like we exaggerate when we tell you to lift and then press. And the reality is we're just like press and we're lifting a tiny bit and then moving over. So we're not like pushing as we move. Because we don't want to take that seam and press it out of existence. You can try this on another seam sometime on test fabric, because I've done this. I just want to press that a little more. And I tend to flip things up in the direction that I want the seam to go, and I do give it a little push just to help ease that fabric over, and then I press. But you can try it sometime when you've sewn like a test seam on a bias or angled edge, and just give it an iron, and you can see how that fabric will move. And then at the end, if you've clipped it right short, you can see how those stitches will come right out. Love doing that. That's how you can show like the worst case scenario. It's usually my example of what not to do. So we've done that. This is 1/2 of our table topper. We're gonna do the same to this piece. Alrighty. That did get a little wiggly. Sometimes stuff gets a little wiggly as we handle it, but you know, if you pay attention to these things, you can, as they come around again, you can just handle it properly when it comes up, just like life. Yeah, feeling a little philosophical this morning, don't know why. So there, just see, I kind of use the iron to sort of ease the fabric, but I'm not really pushing it. And then I'm pressing. And we do the same here. We just sort of ease it out of the way and then press and hold for a little. This is a really good hot iron, so I don't have to really do this as long as I am. All right, so do the same to your other one if you are making two, and I'll meet you back at the sewing machine. Okay, we're back again. I got interrupted. Maybe you did too, but it's all right. We got a pause button. If only we had a pause button on live. So I've pressed my pieces. This time I've pinned. We're going to do that final center seam. We've got 3 on each side. I've lined up my main stripy elements here that I wanted to. So I want to keep them nice and straight. You know, I want it to look good and pretty. And I've starched my fabric. I'm just going to do this one seam left on both of them, and that really is it. I mean, these are really fast table toppers. So we'll get that. And I didn't mention it at the start, but again, just your 1/4 inch seam, and just your 1/4 inch seam. I've got a 1/4 inch foot. I have a FAF, so I have the IDT engaged, just like the built-in walking foot. On this longer seam, you might want a walking foot, but don't stress too much. Just as long as you're not pulling or stretching that seam while it's going through the machine, you're good. There's that one, and I'm doing 2 at a time. Ha! Nothing like efficiency, right? So we got like our big topper and our little topper. If you've never done chain piecing before, notice I left some under the needle and I just butt up my next piece and I just kept going. And then when I'm done, I just snip the thread in between. A little more efficient. You don't have thread ends everywhere to snip off constantly. And you can sew a lot faster. That seam's about to flip over, but I'm going to be picky and flip it back. If you have a purple thing or a nice little stiletto, you could use that instead of your finger or the tip of your embroidery scissors. Once again, welcome to a tutorial on what not to do while I'm telling you the right thing to do. I'm just going to line that up as I go. Clip. There, I am clipping my thread there. And I left my scissors over at the ironing station, as I tend to do. I have two pairs, but of little scissors, and I like to keep tools near me, but then I pick them up and wander away with them, so they're usually never where I left them. So here's the reveal. Here's the little one that we did. Isn't that sweet? So we're gonna press that seam open. I'm sure you can do that without me now. And here's the big one. Here's the big one. Like, look at that. Put that on your coffee table. Like, come on, that's adorable. And for quilting it, you know, you've got your top, you get a piece of batting, you've got a scrap somewhere, I know you do. Whatever you want to put in the back is fine. It can be plain. It doesn't have to match the front. You've got a piece of Christmas fabric in your stash, like if you're doing like a Christmas print, you've got another Christmas print kicking around in your stash that you don't know what to do with. It doesn't match anything. Just stick it on the back. It's fine. It doesn't have to match. See what I did here? This is really cheap, ugly, old. It's not that ugly, but you know, it's bright. It probably glows in the dark. It doesn't feel very nice, but it's okay for the back of this Halloween topper, which is quite nice on the front. And all we did here, we just did some straight line quilting. You know, just if you have a walking foot, you just put it on there, you line up the edge of your foot with that seam and you just stitch straight across the top of all those layers. You do that on both sides of every seam. And then we picked one of these stripes here and we did the same around the middle. That is literally enough quilting for this. That's all you need to worry about. Can you see it on the back? Maybe? There you go. And then bind it and you're done. Like, it's not difficult. If you didn't want to quilt it, the other thing you can do is get whatever you're using for your back, put them right sides together. You don't even have to trim your back. Sew along the edges, right side together, leave one side open, then trim the backing off, flip it right side around, press it, sew that seam closed on the right side, and then stitch all the way around so it looks nice, and then you're done. There's no batting in it, but it's just a table topper and it doesn't need one. And then you don't have to do any more quilting on it, and it's done even faster. You can do this. I know you can. And you've got a stripe. So there. That's our stripey hexagon table runner. Let me know how you make out, and leave a link in the comments to maybe a picture or something so that we can all admire it, because I'm sure yours is going to be fantastic. And have yourself a quilty day. Thank you. Bye.